Hello, purple and teal dragons. I'm doing another video to show you a fourth strategy to use when subtracting 10. So far we've covered using models to subtract, using hundreds chart to subtract, and using your open number line to subtract tens. So now we're going to think about how we can use addition to subtract. And that might seem kind of backwards, but I'm going to explain to you why it works. So we're going to start off thinking about the problem 30 minus 20. And we want to find the answer. Now we're going to use a number line to help us figure out how far apart these numbers are. So I'm going to draw my number line, and I'm going to put 20, my smaller number, at the beginning of the number line, and I'm going to put 30, my bigger number, at the end of the number line. And I want to think to myself, how many tens do I need to count on to reach this missing number? So we're going to think starting at 20. If I add 10 more, what am I going to land on? And I know 20 plus 10 actually gets me to 30. So it was pretty simple. So I had to do one big jump of 10 to get to 30. But how does knowing that 20 plus 10 equals 30 help us? Well, we can use that information from our jump to create a missing addend problem. So if I know that 20 plus 10 equals 30, I can flip my problem to make a subtraction equation. So my answer for the addition problem is my first number in my subtraction problem. The biggest number comes last in addition, and it comes first in subtraction. Then I take the addend I already knew, so I already had 20, and that is what I'm subtracting from 30. So now I know that if 20 plus 10 is 30, if I flip my problem around, 30 minus 20 has to be the same answer as this missing addend. And this makes what we call our fact family. So I can write several different problems for this equation to help me do my facts. And I'll show you really quickly what those four equations are. So without having to solve anything now, I know that 30 minus 20 equals 10. I can keep 30 as my big number for another subtraction problem. I can subtract 10 instead. And I know that if I have 30 minus 10, I must have this 20 left over. And I can also make my two addition equations using the smaller numbers. So I know that 20 plus 10, like we already found out, was 30. And I know that if I flip it, because you can add in any order, that 10 plus 20 must also equal 30. So when we're making these fact families, we want to remember when we're adding, the biggest number that we have is always going to be the answer. 30 is our biggest number. That is our sum, our total. The two smaller numbers are always going to be the addends for an addition problem. And we can subtract them to find the difference. I'm going to do another example of using addition to solve. So let's say that I wanted to find 80 minus 40. Again, I'm going to draw my number line at the bottom. I'm trying to get from the small number to the big number. So I can make a missing add-in problem, and I can say that if I start at 40 and I add some mystery number, I'm going to end at 80. So now I need to find what that mystery number is. How many jumps do I have to make on my number line to get to 80? So we're going to count by tens, one jump at a time. So if I jump once, 40 plus 10 is 50. If I jump a second time and I add 10 more, I go from 50 to 60. If I jump a third time and I add another 10, I'm going to jump from 60 to 70. And one final jump from 70, I add 10 more, and I've reached my goal of 80. So now we're going to total up how much I added all together. So I had 10, 20, 30, 40 added to my number to reach 80. And again, you're missing add-in. That number you added is also the difference or the answer to your subtraction problem. So I had 80, and if I hop backwards 40, if I subtract 40, I land on 40. This is one of those strategies where it's really useful to draw some kind of model to help you solve. I'm going to show you one other way to do this strategy without using your number line, and I'm going to use two different markers to help us not be confused. So I'm going to take the problem 60 minus 20. Now we learned in lesson 11.1 that I can draw my tens and I can erase two tens to take away my 20. But we can also find the difference between 20 and 60 by drawing a model. So we're going to draw the model for the smaller number. So 20. I know I have two tens, so I'm going to draw two of my 10 sticks. But the problem is I want to get to 60. So I need to think, what can I add to 20 to get to my goal or my total of 60? So we're going to count by tens. We have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. So now focusing on the red ones I drew, I can see that I had to add 4 tens to get to 60, which is the same as 40. So I know that 20 plus 40 is 60. So if I flip my problem around, if I started with 6 and I erased 2 tens, I'm left over with 4 tens. So my answer turns out to be that same missing add-in, which is 40. Again, these are all a lot of different strategies that you can use and you can pick from. Don't feel like you have to use this strategy if you find it confusing or you find it hard to use for you. You have a lot of options now that you can try out. So just play around with them, kind of test them out and see which one you think is your best fit. I'll be doing one more lesson for this topic on mental math, so tune in for that one, and I hope everybody has an awesome day. Bye, purple and teal dragons.